Hello and welcome back to Live from the Bottom Half. If you're joining us again from our last few shows, welcome back. If you're joining us for the first time, you've missed out on one show, so you have to go back and watch it all and subscribe and do all that fun stuff. Today, what we are talking about is the Vanguard boxes. More widely than that is what we're talking about is list building from a completely new person's perspective. 99% of all players, when they start with an army, will go to the Vanguard box set because it's cheap and it's got stuff in it and you can play with it to a point, which is something we will be discussing today. But
We
before we
certainly
get
do.
into
I've
it,
just brought them up on the screen. Yeah, here we go.
excellent. So, to give a quick brief intro before we pass over to the man who knows this army better than anyone, we talk about two Fyreslayers boxes that you can buy on the market now. The first one is the Fyreslayers Vanguard. All Vanguard boxes come in at £85. I think that's as flat.
Yeah.
Um, not all Vanguard boxes come in at 620 points. There is huge flexibility. That's the wrong word. There's huge range in the points value you do get in boxes. The Ogre Mordechai's one's 920 points if you build it for points efficiency. In this case, it's 620 to 610, depending on what you buy. And in here is a Battlesmith, Hearthguard Berserkers, and 20 Volkite Berserkers. But want to know something? Ask the person who knows about it. Paul, do you want to walk us through this box and tell us what's in it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like Michael said, I've run Fyreslayers myself for a year, 2 years maybe now. And I would always say that this is kind of a welcome army for anyone who may be starting and looking around. The reason I would say this is that they're quite firm. They do stay around, or some of the units do. And then ultimately, they can do the damage when buffs go off correctly and everything. But for this Vanguard set, like Michael said, we've got the Battlesmith in there, 5 Hearthguard Berserkers and 20 Volkites. The Volkites are essentially the bread and butter of the Fyreslayers army. One thing you'll come to discover about Fyreslayers are they're very, very limited on options for their battle line units and just basic units. They really excel in their hero selection. Saying that though, it's still a limited option. Now, looking through this and everything, if we go on to the next slide, we've got some rules up here about some of the things that they can bring to the army. For example, the Battlesmith, he's primarily one of the synergizing units that really needs to be looked after in the army. The reason being for that, though, is because he provides a 4-up rally within a 12-inch radius around himself. At the same time, he can also give a 6-up ward save, and then once per battle, you can actually buff that up to a 5-up ward save. On top of that, though, you can also give him additional artifacts, which gives you a 4-up spell ignore with an obsidian icon, which is paramount in this current GHB, where we're very strong on the magic front, and that's one thing that the Fyreslayers don't have. It's magic. At the same time, though, you then do get the 20 Volkites in this in this army, in this Vanguard box, I say. They come along just to kind of give that wounds, and you can buff them up at the moment to give them a little bit more. If you wanted to go Volkite heavy, you could go with Vostar, which then means you're getting additions to the hits and wounds. You can actually make them hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s. But they're really cool. One of the other things they also get, which the rest of the army doesn't get, is Fight on Death, which you can do once per battle per unit, which sounds exactly what it means. And then on top of that, if you choose to take the loadout where they have shields, on the charge, they can actually do mortal wounds on 6-up. Now, it's not every model that's in combat, it's actually the whole unit. So only one model has to click into the enemy unit to get all 10 or 20 models doing the mortal wound output. So there's something they can provide. The alternative build with the Volkites there is 2-hand axes, which gives you an additional attack, but you lose out on the rend and the mortal wound output on to begin with. Moving on to that one, then you then also sorry, there you go, ahead of myself on that bit. You then also have Hearthguard Berserkers, which in this instance are quite core and fundamental in the army. You normally take them, I normally take them, should I say, in units of 10. They start out of 5s and they can go up to 15. They can get, once again, set up with 2 options, a poleaxe, flame strike poleaxe. The benefit of that one is basically when you roll to hit on 6s, they do 2 mortal wounds in addition. So you're fishing for the 6s. Other than that, though, they're then 3 3s, no rend, for 1 damage, I believe it is, yeah, 1 damage. But the alternative you do have, though, is the Berserker Broad Axe. They don't get the mortal wound output to hit, but your profile's a lot better. So you're hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. You may think to yourself, oh, the pole strike axes are the best option on this one, but to be honest, it's varying depending on how you want to build it up. And then with the benefits of the book that come along, you sometimes find actually the broad axes do more. The main thing about the Hearthguard Berserker is you have 4-up ward save if you're wholly within 9 inches of a hero. So with that in mind, they are very tanky, and they can also be a bodyguard to heroes. Well, the Rune Father and Rune Son, which means they can shrug off the wounds onto the Hearthguard. And unlike normal bodyguard rules, the Hearthguard do actually get a ward save. So you do get a good starting element in this Vanguard box set. You definitely do need to build on it, but it's a good start.
I think, there's a lot. There's a lot of quality in this box, but as someone who has looked at Fyreslayers once in a while, the quality is in one unit, which is the Hearthguard Berserker. Like it is every time I faced it, it's a nightmare. So my question is, I pick up the Vanguard. Why is there a reason I would not just go out and just buy Hearthguard Berserkers for the rest of my army?
Yeah, so whilst the Hearthguard Berserkers are really good and everything, the one thing they do suffer from is just like every other dwarf unit, they can get bogged down. And you do need other units out there kind of being a bit more versatile. And you also got to remember that Volkites, you get 10 for the same price as 5 Hearthguard. So when you want bodies on the board, Volkites are a great way of doing that. When you want something that stays around, and perhaps with the like Rune Father or Rune Son or wherever you kind of match them alongside, then you can actually have a bit more power output with the Hearthguard. So it's really how you want to build it. This Vanguard gives you a good starter, but ultimately I would certainly invest into more Hearthguard.
What about you, Jason? When you see Fyreslayers, if I gave you a Vanguard box, having faced them quite a lot, seeing Paul a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
What do you reckon?
I would build heavily into the Hearthguard, but Volkites are numbers. You do need those numbers to capture objectives on the side. I would say you build heavier into the Hearthguard, in my mind. But you need at least one group of, say, 10, 20 just to capture side objectives, whatever, basically get numbers on the actual objectives. That's what I've learned from playing Paul. Because, like Paul says, those Hearthguard, you just chuck a unit in there, they're going to hurt you, you're going to hurt them. But it'll be till turn 3, 4, then one of the battles will be done, but then by that time the victory points have been scored.
Yeah.
So you need a few other numbers. So no, carry on. Go on.
No, I think from the Vanguard purchasing perspective, like that's what we're kind of looking at on this one. I think ultimately it's a good starter pack. You still will need to invest more units, but ultimately you are saving money here. So it totally makes sense to potentially go for this one. You're not losing out on anything. You do use all 3 units in this Vanguard set.
And I think that's really good, though, isn't it? In that we will talk about is that if I'm starting something and I'm spending £85 on it, I want to be sure that I'm using everything from that box.
Yeah.
And that it has utility throughout it. To Jason's point, relying on Hearthguard, I had a match with Fyreslayers at a tournament. In round 4, somebody came to our table and said to us, aside TO, panicking like, "What round are you on?" Because nothing had been killed. Because it was mortal calling into more Fyreslayers. But because I had more bodies, I won on primary by quite a distance because he was getting 0-point rounds because I was everywhere not dying and he couldn't get through.
Yeah.
The hit 2 mortals on a 6s is the kind of thing that would make me joyous and break my heart all the time. Out of interest, what have your experiences been like with the mortal wound side of things?
It's very swingy for me. As we all know, I'm cursed by the dice whenever I play games or tournaments. And in this instance, it's very much the same. Sometimes you can peek and you can clear a unit, or you can heavily damage a superhero or one of the tankier units. But it's on a 6. You can't buff that up any better. It's always on a 6. And you're doing essentially what you do with Lumineth. You're fishing for the 6s. So whenever I do it and I run my Fyreslayers, I have 1 unit of pole axes and 1 unit of broad axes. Broad axes will definitely determine damage output. Pole axes are there to get through something that may have heavy armor.
Yeah. Okay. So it comes down then to your list building philosophy, doesn't it? If you are looking to play this game to spike and see cool stuff happen, which is what we should all be looking for to do anyway, maybe there's a pole axe, but when you get to the competitive side, having something that's consistent is a lot more effective than that. And I know every single Warhammer player thinks they're cursed with dice. Paul is cursed with dice. I have seen rolls that should not have happened when I play. It'd be better off playing with a pack of cards the way sometimes you have rolled. But yeah, so Fyreslayers have also, there's 2 boxes on the market. So we have the Vanguard box set, and we also have them as part of the Dawnbringers. The Dawnbringer is a slightly cheaper set, and in this example, is slightly less points as well. So we're at £80 now, 570 to like 580 points. We spoke about the Hearthguard Berserkers, which are back in here as well, and the 10 Volkite Berserkers, which are here. I think maybe the limitations on the amount of Fyreslayers models they've got has led them to have to kind of double up a little bit. These 2 Berserkers, they do the heavy lifting throughout the Fyreslayers. Every aspect of it. The merchandise, the selling, the cafe, all ran by the Berserkers.
Yeah.
But what we do see here as well is Ulrich Hearthguard and the Grimholt Exile. I know you were pretty enjoying this idea of this Exile, Paul. Would you like to talk to us about why he's the best thing in the world?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I loved the idea. When this came out in the new Harbinger's book, wasn't sure what to expect. And when you saw the rules, I was like, yeah, move aside Grimwrath Berserker. Yeah, here's a new person. The Grimholt Exile is really good. If we have a look at his rules on this one, so basically, he has the same sort of profile as a Grimwrath Berserker. Doesn't necessarily get to fight twice, but he brings a lot more utility to the force. In instance, once per battle, instead of piling in and fighting, you can roll dice. So basically, once he charges, you can roll dice equal to the number of units, the wounds characteristic of that unit, and then any 4-ups causes a mortal wound. So what you can do, you can send this fella into perhaps a giant, maybe Glutos, maybe someone like who's the Chaos Lord blokey on the big dragons?
Okay.
Big wounded models, roll a number of dice, and then you're perhaps causing like 7-8 wounds. Fantastic rules, once per battle, but it's just great if you want to kind of hit something that's heavy wound or high wound counts. He also has another one, which is once per battle in the hero phase, he can inspire units around him and they can run and charge as a consequence. And then finally, on top of that, he also gets a 4-up ward save so long as he's within 3 inches of a friendly unit of at least 3 models. So you can't put him beside a Grimwrath Berserker, but you could put him beside perhaps some Hearthguard Berserkers, and in turn, because they're within 9 inches of him, they also get the 4-up ward save. So you've got 2 units, 4-up ward saves running in there. And then, like I said, he's got a great profile anyway. I believe it's 5 or 6 attacks, 3 threes, -2 for 2 damage. Gotta love it. So he is a really good choice, and certainly something that people should consider when they're now building their Fyreslayers list as a fundamental piece to take.
Excellent. All right. So the Grimholt Exile was a big deal. A big deal. Did you mention the Hearthguard?
No. So going from one end to the other end, if ever there was a weak unit currently for the Fyreslayers, it has to be the Auric Hearthguard, and it's really unfortunate because they're the only shooty unit aside from your Magma Drops that the Fyreslayers can really take advantage of. Saying that, however, they're just so poor at the moment. Their output is laughable, and although they have a special rule, it's very limited. I personally have actually, and this was something I would suggest for this Vanguard box, I actually converted my Auric Hearthguard because I love how they look. Their weapons are spectacular, great design on the models. I actually converted them and made them into Hearthguard with flame pole axes. I just collected the chains onto them. So I would honestly suggest at this time, converting them, making them some more Hearthguard. And in that case, in this Vanguard box, you're not walking away with 5 Hearthguard, you're now actually walking away with 10. And so long as they're actually modelled correctly, like for example, the pole axes are meant to have chains on them. So that's what exactly I did. I just took the chains from the normal Hearthguard sprue set, connected them onto the Auric Hearthguard, and go, voila, they're now Hearthguard. Thumbs up. I would honestly say that this is probably the one unit you would very rarely take at the moment, if at all, because their points just do not justify their capabilities.
That's really interesting. You're touching on something that's really kind of maybe a bit crucial to this particular box, is that it's actually 10. You could have 10 Hearthguard and 10 Volkites and a Grimhold, and in which case, value-wise of output and results on your table, you're getting out of this box more than you're getting out of the Vanguard. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Jason, what do you think? Any questions about the Dawnbringers?
No real questions. I think it's a nice little box. Like I said, I've seen Paul's converted his Auric Hearthguard. I just had a quick look at their stats. Just, you wouldn't. Simple as that.
What are the stats? I haven't got in front of me.
Shoot twice, 3s, -1 for 1.
4s, 3s, -1 for 1.
4s, 3s, -1 for 1. Okay, sorry.
And it's 5 in the unit?
5 models in the unit, plus 1 for the attack of the champion, even for range. It doesn't say melee. So you got 11 attacks coming out of that unit, 4s, 3s, -1/1.
So
18 in range.
The 6, you're getting 3 hits. Yeah.
Before saves.
Okay, so yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So you have these. What is not in these Vanguard boxes that you think is your first portal call? I know we said like go buy Hearthguard Berserkers, but assuming that we, as a player, would come to the moment we've got. Is there anything out there in the Fyreslayers range that you're like, that's the next piece, or that's what really suits this particular build? Because it seems to me when you talk about a lot of this is a lot about ward saves, particularly the Dawnbringer's one about keeping your stuff on the board. Is there something else in the Fyreslayers that really runs into that you'll say, here's your next, right? To the viewer, we're not telling you what to purchase, it's your money. But Paul, if you were in that position,
yeah, honestly, my suggestion and advice at this point would be then invest into more heroes, particularly Runefather, Runemaster, and Runesmiter, and then perhaps go towards Grimwrath Berserker. You do need the heroes, but you then need to get some more models. So then you'll also be looking at an extra unit, Volkite perhaps. Definitely some more Hearthguard, and then ultimately, if you wanted to bring them in, they're not a lost cause. Magma Drafts. They have 3 options with them. I wouldn't necessarily suggest the Runesmiter or Magma Droth, but to be honest, when you get the Magma Droth box, you can just build it how you want it with either one of the 3 heroes on top. So I would honestly suggest that'd be your next port of call after buying one of these boxes. Ultimately, you could probably use both of these boxes and have a comfortable 1,400 points, and then you just kind of finish it off from there.
Yeah, it does seem about because you'd have 30 Volkites, you could make 15 Hearthguard, 2 heroes. Yeah, pick up 4 heroes. That'd probably take you to your points.
Days.
And you've got you've got 2,000 points of Fyreslayers ready to go. So yeah, as I say, every once in a while I look at Fyreslayers, I'm like, they're in my future. They're great. A bunch of angry dwarfs. Love it.
Naked angry dwarfs.
Naked angry dwarfs. That's when anything's naked, it's better.